Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 60 of the Resilient Podcast. Today, I have a special guest here with me, someone who came to visit all the way from North Carolina, Charlotte, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And this gentleman and I, we connected on social media. You know, lately, a lot of my guests have been coming from social media, which I'm not complaining about because I think connecting on social media with people is some of the, it's like, to me, it's a blessing. It's a beautiful thing. And, you know, we connect instantly because this gentleman right here created a cause that I'm so like proud of, so behind of. It's funny because he reached out to me,
Yeah.
but I felt like I was the one that reached out to him, and we instantly connected. This has been going on for probably about a month now.
Yeah.
His name is Gabe Alvarez, and you know, Gabe, first of all, thank you for coming today. Thank you for
Yeah.
flying in from North Carolina. I know your schedule's been very hectic, but you know, this is June. It is
Yeah.
the month of Men's Health Month and Men's Mental Health.
Yeah.
And you and I are both guys, and I'm sure you've had your shares of men's mental health and whatnot. You know, you've probably been through some moments in life. I've obviously been through a lot of moments, is why I created this podcast.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm thankful that you're here. We're going to talk about everything that is Gabe Alvarez.
Mm.
Before this episode, I asked you what was your favorite word. You told me your favorite word is rest.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, they're going to think like rest just means going to sleep, right?
Yeah.
But I know Gabe has a different explanation of rest, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So, you know, before we get into that, like I said, Gabe, this gentleman right here, we recently connected, and you know, these opportunities, when they come, you have to take advantage of them. So, Gabe, my first question to you is, for those who may be meeting you for the first time, tell us about yourself, your journey, and the story behind the YOUGOOD brand.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm Gabe. I grew up in Queens. So my parents migrated here to the U.S. from Colombia when I was 5. I don't remember that. They kind of just packed me up and I came here, and I think that, based on your Resilient podcast, I think that's naturally inherited when you're transferred from one place to the next, and you need to be resilient in everything, right? As a first time, as a migrant, as someone who's new to a country who doesn't speak the language, I think resiliency is just like embedded in us.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Queens. I my parents came here, they worked and they retired and they left. Now they're in Colombia. They're back in Colombia. Yeah. So, crazy fact that I always like to say is that I'm the only person in my entire family that's in the US. So I have no family anywhere but Colombia.
Really? Wow.
I mean, now I'm fortunate enough to have my wife.
Okay.
And we have family here as well, and extended family.
Okay.
But yeah, grew up here, went to elementary school, high school, college, all in the city. So I'm like a true New Yorker. We left to North Carolina just to check it out. But New York is always home, and it's going to be home hopefully in the next month. I say, as far as the YOUGOOD brand, I think it's a story of of breaking stereotypes. I think that was the most important thing.
I love that.
I went through a hardship, and this was like 12 years ago, and I think men typically shift when heartbreak happens.
Yes.
And that for me was it. I started therapy about 12 years ago.
Good.
So I've seen the same therapist for 12 years.
Wow.
Deep into therapy.
12 years, the same
Yeah,
therapist?
man. Yeah.
That's insane.
And even growing up, I was pretty vulnerable and pretty emotional. Like all my friends would tell me, "Hey, dude, you're a little too emotional." And I think, growing up in New York, that's I don't know if you take that as an insult or you take that as a
No,
compliment, right?
I know exactly how you feel because I go through the same thing too. Being
Yeah,
from New York, people feel like I need to be strong and tough. You know, that
right,
New York State mentality. And I'm like, listen, like, regardless of where you're from, we're still human beings.
right.
And, you know, I don't think where you come from should be a factor as, you know, the level of your toughness, the level of your softness, the level of your, you know, emotions, or even your empathy, if you have any empathy. Because I know a lot of people that don't have empathy
Right.
at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell them, are you empathetic? And they don't even know what the word means.
Yeah, right.
You know?
And empathy is an interesting thing, because empathy means you feel really, really heavy, right?
Yeah.
Um. Anyways, the You Good brand, just I I I I thought there was a lot of products in the market for couples. There's a lot of products in the market for women to explore vulnerability and emotion and friendship. But I wanted to focus on specifically Black and brown men, because we're taught differently.
Yes.
We're raised differently.
Yeah.
We're kind of thick skinned, but I wanted to give space for men like you and me to explore vulnerability, right?
Of
And I think
course.
the
I
question that
appreciate you for that.
yeah, I appreciate that. The question that always gets asked is, and everywhere we go, especially New Yorkers, yo, you good? There's different tones of it, right? You say you good or you good, you say it twice, and it feels like you're starting problems. But if you say it once, you're just checking
Just
in.
hearing you saying it,
Right,
I'm
right.
feeling intimidated a little bit.
Right. You're like, you
Because you
good?
still
You
have that,
good?
you still have that New York accent. So, you know,
Right.
the accent never changes no matter where you go.
Oh, no,
So,
definitely, man. So, but yeah, we wanted to start with that, because I think the initial "you good" and the passive answer has always been like, yeah, I'm good, but we never get a layer deeper, right? And that's what I wanted. That's what we wanted to do, because my business partner Kat and I came together, and we just thought about this, right? We were like, hey, this makes sense. Interesting enough, that you say, oh, it's a man's brand, but it's also co-founded by a woman, and I think that
so is your wife one of the co-founders?
no, she's my wife's good friend. So,
Oh, very nice.
her and I talk about it all the time. Where like there's two paths, right? There's me saying, "Yo, let's play the game," and then the second path is a wife, a sister, a girlfriend saying, "Hey, I need you to be more vulnerable. I need you to explore these things with your boys," and that's where her input came in, right?
Okay.
And I think naturally you think about the impact that relationships have, whether that's with your father, that's with your friends. And from a woman's perspective, is very different, right? And
Of
her
course.
perspective is, I want to facilitate this. And my perspective is, this is needed, right? So we started the brand. It's, you good tip. It's very simple.
When did you start the brand?
But so we started working on it about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then I'd say a year later, that's when we got everything finalized.
Okay.
And then finally we decided to launch we launched the card game. And yeah, it's been received pretty well. There's I'd say the most important thing to this game is opening up vulnerable conversations amongst Black and brown men. And obviously it's not you know we're not putting a fence around it. I think what we're doing is just focusing on someone that is relatable to me at the moment. I think eventually we'll start thinking about what vulnerability looks for fathers and sons, what vulnerability looks for people of different cultures, whatever it is. But right now, I think the biggest need, based on statistical numbers of like men in jail, men going, divorce rates.
Oh,
And I don't have the numbers now, but we all know the trend is always Black and brown men suffer more deeper than others,
well,
right?
you know, those numbers have skyrocketed ever
Yeah,
since the pandemic. We were talking about the pandemic before
yeah,
we started this episode. And it's a shame that those numbers keep increasing instead of decreasing, because you'll have people from like all these other polls say like everything is good now, less people are going to prison, and that's not true. That's not true. I speak to people from all aspects of life, people that are in the industry, because the type of person that I am, and I've said this before in the past on previous episodes and even conversations I have with friends, I don't go too much about what the media says. I talk directly with people that are in those industries.
Yeah.
I have had conversations with correctional officers. I've had conversations with lawyers. I've had conversations with, people that are deeply involved in politics and stuff like that. And what I do is I pick their brain and I try to ask them, so what have you been exposed to? What do you know?
Yeah.
What like, that you know for a fact is true, opposed to whether the media is actually aligned with that information that you're sharing with me, or the media is either talking less about it or making it seem bigger than what it is.
Right.
And you'll be surprised these type of conversations that I have with people. And they'll tell me, listen, the fact of the matter is the suicide rate in men, it gets higher every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
Why is that? And then we hear about stories about, I'm sure you've heard about Seattle. Like Seattle, it's always like depressing over there.
Yeah.
A lot of people end up committing suicide. The UK, overseas, a lot of men commit suicide. Sometimes they balance out these numbers and they feel like more men in the UK are committing suicide than in the US.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's sad because at the same time, I'm not trying to take away from the total number of suicides, like including both men and women.
Yeah.
But like when you look at the amount of numbers of men, and I tap in with a lot of people about this, women, I have a lot of conversations with women. Like my therapist is a female.
Okay.
So I tell people, regardless of what your beliefs are, because I've had these conversations with women that, oh, men got to provide, men got to do this, men got to do that. I'm like, that's fine that, you have that mentality.
Right.
I don't necessarily agree with everything you're saying when it comes to a man. I feel that a man is supposed to take a lead. A man is supposed to provide for his wife, but he's also supposed to provide for himself.
Right.
I don't think, and let me know if you agree with me or not, Gabriel, like, I don't think a man will be able to fully function with everything else that he's supposed to if he's not taking care of himself first.
I agree. Yeah.
Because we live in a world where people just expect men to worry more about everything else and not put themselves first.
Yeah.
I've heard women tell me, I want a man to put me first. I want him, and they get offended the minute I say to them, well, why don't you want him to put God first?
Yeah.
Or why don't you want him to put himself, why should he put himself first? I come first. Yeah. And I'm like, but he has to be healthy enough to be able to take care of you. Because if he's not healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally, how can he be able to do all those things for you? Yeah. Well, men are men. They have to figure it out. They'll find. I'm like, you gotta understand something. We're living in different times.
Yeah.
And maybe those suicide numbers from back in the day and the ones that are still toppling around till this date is because it was men like that. Men that just had to figure it out.
Yeah. They
were not told it's okay to be okay. They were told you can't cry. They were told you cannot tell me how you feel. You can't vent. Yeah. You can't do. And it's sad. My oldest brother, and not to put him on the spot, my oldest brother's, he just turned 51, right? This month. And this man, from what I've always remembered, he used to be a very heavy-set dude. I know he was depressed. I know he wasn't happy being obese. Yeah. I know he was depressed being an obese person. Yeah. I remember there was a time that he complained that he had an injury. He fell. And that injury is what ultimately led him to want to lose weight. But this is a man who had 4 kids, had to figure it out. His father died when he was a kid, so he never had a dad. The only father figures that he had was my brother's father, who also passed away a few years ago, and then my dad. My dad pretty much raised my brother, you know what I'm saying? And then I was born later on in 86, so he knows my father longer than I know my dad. And my father's 75 years old, but he knows my father since he was a kid. And, this is a man who was always told that he just had to figure it out. Yeah. And he had that mentality where no emotion, no nothing. People would pass away in the family, no tears, no nothing. And just constantly drinking, watching, YouTube, whatever, and never talking about his life. Yeah. It took, obviously, a health scare for my brother to finally, open up about things and tell people how he felt. When my grandmother passed away, it was like the most vulnerable I've ever seen my brother in my entire life. Because obviously he had a different relationship with my grandma than I did, because I had the best relationship with my grandma. Yeah. He did it not so much. But even when she passed away, I could see the vulnerability. I could see the guard coming down on him. And he was saying things to me and telling me stories that I never thought I would ever hear from him.
Yeah.
Fast forward now in 2026, I have a good relationship with my brother.
Awesome.
I didn't have a good relationship. This is my mom's firstborn.
Yeah.
And as a child, never had a good relationship with him. It was always, he thought he was the older brother. He thought he knew everything. Sometimes would bully me, unfortunately,
I mean,
and treat me like I was his kid. But today, it's like all that stuff he used to do to me, it kind of went away. Like the bullying, like, trying to tell me what to do. Because that was that's one thing that he did the most, was he tried to control my life growing up.
Yeah.
He wanted to tell me where to work, what to do. And I'm like, what about what I want?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it took me a while to realize maybe this is what happened to him.
Yeah.
Maybe this is how he was raised. Maybe this is how the family treated him growing up. Like he had to do what they asked him to do.
Oh, yeah.
And if he slipped, he was gonna get the whip.
Right.
So he tried to do that to me. He tried to boss me around, and I try to see the good of it, because I said, look, it kind of goes back to like the Michael Jackson story, how a lot of people would say Joseph Jackson was terrible.
Yeah.
But then you got people that say, hey, had Joseph not been the way he was, Michael probably would have never been as successful.
Right.
So some people will sit there and sympathize with that and be like, hey, look, like, I feel the pain in that. But some people will look at it and be like, listen, like, I guess it took that amount. I'm like, was the discipline harsh? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But it probably had to take that type of discipline, because maybe that's how Joe Jackson was raised.
Yeah.
And all Joe Jackson,
yeah,
Joe Jackson probably just wanted a lot of success. Of course, he wanted money too.
Yeah.
But I know he wanted success. But that damages people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is why I always tell people, let people be who they are.
Yeah.
Whether it's a man or woman, don't try to tell people what to do. Yeah. The Undertaker, which I'm sure you know, professional wrestler who retired a few years ago, at his Hall of Fame speech in Dallas, Texas, he spoke about, being sad because he didn't know, he didn't want to be a basketball player. His family wanted to be a basketball player, but he knew he wanted to be a wrestler.
I forget how tall.
6'10".
Yeah.
And he talked about
a big guy.
Yeah, he talked about how he had a conversation with his brother, and his brother told him, like, listen, Mark, like, stop worrying about what everybody wants you to be. Be what you want to be. You want to be that professional wrestler? Go ahead. And look, fast forward, it took him a few tries, a few gimmicks, but he finally became The Undertaker, and look, had an historic career.
With Paul Walker.
With Paul Bear.
Paul Bear,
yeah,
my bad.
One of the greatest careers in sports entertainment, period.
Oh, yeah.
But had he listened to the family and everybody else that was around him, pushing their weight on or projecting on him, he probably would have been a miserable basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
And his career probably would have not been that long.
Right.
Basketball players don't play for that long.
They don't,
but Undertaker was blessed to wrestle till like he was like 57 or something.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He still looks like he's 30-something.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, I always tell people, allow people to be who they want to be. Allow people to express themselves. At the end of the day, you have a brain, you have emotions for a reason.
Yeah.
And you are who you are for a reason. You're Gabriel, right? I'm Rob Aurelius. Like, at the end of the day, Rob should not be telling Gabriel what to do or how to think. Yeah. Vice versa. Gabriel, what we can do is we can sit down and have an open conversation.
Right.
This is what I think. Like, for example, if I'm venting to you, like, hey, Gabe, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, you might be able to assess, you might be able to detect, okay, this is a pattern.
Yeah.
So let me give him my advice. Hey, Rob, you ever thought about maybe, your role in a situation, why it keeps happening? Maybe you got to focus more on your role, like why you're allowing this to happen. Maybe you're the common denominator, and not get offended by it, right? When you say something like that to me and be like, you know what? Because it happened to me one time. I was constantly complaining to somebody I was with, and they finally told me, listen, like, it's very valid, everything you're saying. Everything you're going through is completely valid. But have you ever taken the time to realize why this keeps happening? Yeah. Or have you ever thought about your role in a situation? Because the minute you start thinking about your role, you might actually start realizing what you're actually allowing, what you're settling for. And I took offense to that at first. Like, why would you say that to me? Yeah. But then, I tapped in with therapy, and accountability came in and everything else. And I was like, oh, snap. I never thought about it that way. Right. I literally was able to go back to that person and be like, listen, thank you for that. Thank you for that tip. Now I try to be more exclusive with everything. I don't try to be a part of everything. I don't try to allow people to go over my head as much. Right. You know what I'm saying? I have a good heart. A lot of people know that. A lot of people say that I have a good heart. Sometimes people with good hearts, unfortunately, we get stepped on a little bit, Right. And this is something that we have to learn to do, is we have to learn how to set boundaries so that some people can either see right through us or they can't. Yeah. I feel like when people can't see through you, I think it's a good thing. Yeah. But when they see right through you, it might be a problem because they know exactly where to target you. Right. They know where it hurts. But exactly, they know where it'll hurt. But if they can't figure it out, they probably will give up trying
Yeah.
to, go around you, hurt you, whatever the case may be. And I think that's why, like, most importantly, like with men, it's okay to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to tap into your masculinity. It's okay to, be guarded, whatever it is. But at the same time, you got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You got to take accountability. You got to do a lot of reflecting, self-reflecting, and just spend time with yourself, asking yourself questions. I do this all the time. I tell people, listen, there's nothing wrong with talking to yourself, especially if you're by yourself.
Yeah.
And you're probably reading something, watching TV, or you're looking at something, reading a article or something, and the next thing you know, you start talking to yourself like, "Well, Gabriel, what are you gonna do about this this event that's coming up? How are you gonna handle it? Because
Yeah.
3 people pulled out of the project, so how are you gonna handle it? It's okay to do that." And I
Right.
tell people it's okay to do that because sometimes people are like, "No, no, no, I'll just figure it out." I'm like, listen, figuring out is something that has been said for years.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna figure it out. You might run into a moment and a time where you might fall into a dark place because of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to figure this out. How am I going to do this? You always said you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, now all of a sudden figuring out is becoming a challenge.
It's hard. Yeah.
So you got to build some type of mentality where figuring it out is not just, ways to get by. Figuring out is you actually do come up with a strategic way of how you're going to execute something, how you're going to get, something out of the way, how you're going to take care of something without harming yourself and harming others.
Also, yeah, I love that. I think Rob, you touched on a lot of things that and I know you have a list of questions, so I'm gonna tap in really quick to a couple of things you said.
Yeah.
I think you talked about when you made the reference to Michael Jackson and his father, when you made the reference to your brother and your experience with your brother. These are like topics that we include in the game. So there's 5 topics, obviously, but one of them is generational threads. So thinking about, you know, what has the past generation taught you, and then there's brotherhood bonds, right? Like what are the bonds that you build with brother? Not only like a blood brother, but your bro, your guy.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 topics that we thought were very important because of that. Exactly, right? Like there's the generational like trauma and things you have to talk about, but then there's also the learning lessons from that.
Yes.
And then brotherhood bonds, obviously the friction between a blood brother. I'm an only child, so I always say like I don't understand I like I don't understand the concept of like family, but it's always like I'm fighting with my brother, but I still love him, And I don't understand that. And it took me a long time to think about that. But I do have conflicts with friends. I do have conflicts with, people that I consider my brother, even though they're not blood brothers. But yeah, I do appreciate your analogy and like thinking about, or your examples of thinking about like rest and being able to figure things out in by yourself, and learning from them.
Yeah. So my next question to you is, the question, "Are you good?" seems simple, right?
Yeah.
But it carries so much weight. What inspired the brand and what conversations were you hoping to create when you started it?
I mean, the brand. So I'm not a therapist, right? I'm just gonna say that up front. For the camera. I'm not a therapist, but in talking to my therapist, the thing is that when you go to therapy, you look at therapy is a tool for better mental health, right? Therapy is a tool for better life.
Yes.
Your therapist gives you the tools and asks the questions for you to be better, and it doesn't need to be a therapist to create a game like this. What he gave me was, hey, Gabe, I feel like after these 12 years, you've developed to this person, right? And I told him about the card game idea, and he said it's very suitable for who I am, right? Um, and I actually consulted with my therapist. His name is Chris Martin. So um, I consulted with Chris, and I said, Chris, I feel sort of like imposter syndrome because I'm not a therapist. I'm starting this from just a personal experience point of view. And what he said to me is like, Gabe, you're not a therapist, but you're providing the tool for people to be better. And I think if you give people the tools, that's your contribution to their mental health.
There you go.
So the inspiration came from that, and I wanted always to create a tool, and that was where the game came from. Yeah.
So, the theme of today's episode is rest. When you hear the word rest, what does that mean to you beyond sleep?
Beyond sleep, man, too much. I think we were talking about this off camera, right? Like um, for me, rest means reset, and I think the and it sounds weird, but they both start with R, and
Yes.
so does Rob. But
And reset and
and
rest are almost
reset,
the same word. It's
yeah,
just an extra
right,
letter.
yeah, right. You know, it's crazy, right? So, um, I think about rest the same way you had described it. How you took a certain period in your life where you just needed isolation,
Yeah.
you needed to reset, you
Yeah.
needed to really. I think rest gives you the ability to be retrospective.
Yeah.
You know, like I think growing up in New York, I love New York, but the hustle culture is crazy,
It
right?
is. It
You
is.
step into other places of the world, even island. You know, you everybody quotes like island life
Yeah.
and how slow it is. You know,
Yeah.
you
I don't
being
like
Dominican, like you know, like you go there and people are moving at their own pace. And even if you go down south, where in North Carolina, people are moving much slower. And I've learned throughout, my life that rest has always been the place where I am able to be, you know, get some thoughts in. I'm able to like reflect. I'm able to just let my body heal, my mind heal. And that's what I think about rest, right? Like I think about slowing myself down in a world that's moving at 1,000 miles per hour, and that for me is rest.
Interesting. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Um, my next question to you is: we talked about black and brown men. So my
Hmm.
next question to you is: many men, especially black and brown men, are taught to keep pushing no matter what they're carrying. Why do you think so many men struggle to slow down, rest, and ask for help when they need it?
I mean, dude, it goes back to like that generational kind of trauma that we have, right? I
Mm,
think, and again, I want to say that there's so many things that I feel are it's a complicated math problem, right? Like at least I feel that way, right? It's
yeah.
just like I can't tie it to one thing. I think there's so many things. There's, the environment you grew up in has a lot of has a lot of impact on like you being who you are,
That's true.
and the inability to stop resting, or the inability to address mental health.
Yes.
Um, the cultural norms of being the head of the household,
Ah.
being the bill payer,
Mm,
being the provider.
yep.
I think that is something, and like I think that's one part of it. I think the concept of crying being a sign of weakness.
Mm,
I think crying is a sign. I mean, now as I'm older, I think crying has helped me through my hardest of times. um and yeah, there's just so many things, and I think in addition in addition, plus division, multiply, whatever that formula is, and you take it into like what historically we've struggled with as a society, right? Like
mm,
we talked about incarceration rates, we talked about divorce rates, we talked about all these things, and and you add that to the formula, and this is why we struggle with that stuff, right?
mhm.
um and and we've historically, stuff has been, you know and I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but I think that historically you see it, right? You see it where work harder, you have to work hard, you have to be 10 steps above everybody else in order to get to a certain place. And there's so many things that go into that formula of not addressing mental health or impacting the way that we are emotionally in tune,
Mm,
that that overshadows the experiences we go through, right?
yep.
That don't give us time to reflect,
Hmm.
because I'm dealing with possibly being the head of my household. I'm dealing with possibly, you know doing things to perfection in order to succeed, right?
Hmm.
I'm doing things, and when we get older, our parents get older, so we, more often than not, we become their providers,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
so we're
I'm in
dealing
that
with that.
situation right now.
Yeah, kids, like you add kids on top of that, right? So I think, it's a lot of things, and I wish it was singular, because then we'd have the solution, right?
Mm.
I just turned 40, so
I
I
just
think
turned
right,
42,
right,
so
right, right. So
congratulations.
like, congratulations, yeah. But I say 40 gives me like a different. 40 has given me a perspective like none other, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
feel the same way.
right? You're just like, at least for me, I'm thinking what in my mind during rest. I'm thinking, holy cow, I've had 40 years of this like head down, like just do what I've, like not address. I mean, obviously I've been able to address a lot of things, but like most of my life has been head down,
Ah,
right?
yeah,
Like I don't think about the peripheral, like, I don't think about the peripheral distractions. But as I'm 40, I'm like, okay, I need to give myself some grace. I need to give myself
yeah,
some love,
yeah. You have to. You have to.
and that I think is the struggle that we face.
Yeah, I feel you. So resilience is a word we also often use in this podcast. What does resilience mean to you, and how has it shown up in your own life?
Uh, yeah, I'm happy we had a pre-show conversation. But yeah, man, I think resilience. So I came here when I was 5, right? I didn't come here. My parents packed me up and came, right? Like I had no choice there. Anyway, I think it showed up from the moment I was transferred over here,
Mm,
and I think it shows up in any person that takes what they know, or takes someone or something and transfers themselves, or gets transferred into a new environment,
mm,
right? Whether that's you as an adult leaving somewhere else, or whether that's, you think about our parents, right? Or your parents or my parents. My parents are 34 years old when they got here.
ah,
Imagine being 34 years old and you're leaving everything you know in your past, right? Like, and it took me a long time, like, till I got to college, where I was like, oh man, my parents have sacrificed so much, right? And even as a young kid, resilience always came with adjusting to new cultures, right? Adjusting to, I didn't know any English, right? I knew no English when I came here, right? That's resilient, right? You as a kid, you learn that really quick. Um, but I think resilience, and just to, I know I'm talking a lot, but
no,
resilience is
this is a resilient podcast. We're having a conversation.
resilience is just, for me, it means that, it was taught very early.
Okay.
It was taught very early. And what it means for me is just like getting beyond, or addressing those things that are meant to stop you,
Mm,
like addressing them and saying like, hey, I'm going to knock down this wall.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So, folks, we're here with Gabriel, and we're having this conversation during Men's Mental Health. We're gonna take a brief break. When we come back, we're gonna make a very special announcement. I'm gonna allow Gabriel to make that announcement for us, and we'll be back in a few seconds. All right, welcome back to the Resilient Podcast, episode 60 of the Resilient Podcast. Today we're talking about rest with Gabriel. Gabriel's all the way from North Carolina, came, originally from New York, but he came to have this conversation with me. And, Gabriel, I'm so excited because we're about to make a quick announcement to everyone. You are one of the co-founders of YOUGOOD brand. And, when we first had our initial conversation on social media, one of the first things you asked me if you could be on the show.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
asked you in return if you would be interested in sponsoring the Resilient Podcast.
Yeah.
So folks, it's official. Gabriel, take it away.
Yeah. So the good news is the YOUGOOD brand is a sponsor. So we're going to provide 10% off for any Resilient Podcast listeners. And the code is TRP10. So you get 10% off the deck. We also have t-shirts, and I don't have the t-shirts on me because my life has been hectic in the last couple hours, as you know, but the t-shirts are super high quality.
Yes.
Just
I
they're a
can't wait
little
to wear mine.
oversized. Rob and Diego behind the camera are gonna get there soon, hopefully.
But folks,
So
the information is right here on the screen.
Yeah.
The website is
yougoodbrand.com. So if you go to on checkout, you put TRP10 and you'll get 10% off.
Yeah. So it's official. We have a new sponsor. You know, aside from Maddie Rocks Coffee, Victor from Nala Health, now we have Gabriel and YOUGOOD brand. I mean, I'm so excited. I'm overwhelmed because, you know, we just celebrated the 2-year anniversary of the Resilient Podcast, and here we are. This is how far we've come. And this is episode 60. This is a milestone, you know?
60, wow.
60 episodes. We're 40 episodes away from 100.
Hey.
And, you know, it's crazy. So, Gabriel, I wanted to ask you, it's, you know, the conversation is about Men's Health Month. Since it is Men's Health Month, what does men's health mean to you, and how has your definition of health evolved over the years?
Yeah, so mental health to me means stepping up and being uh vulnerable and being accepting of help.
Mm.
I think that that's the most important thing. Not everything, you don't need to solve everything by yourself.
Mm.
I know we're heads down, but therapy helps.
Yes.
Talking to friends help,
Yes.
and I think that's what it means. I think just being open to not being alone, open to having those conversations, open to
It's okay to be a little vulnerable sometimes.
yeah, man. I
For the
really,
right reasons.
right. I think with the right reasons, with the right people, you know, and I hope that even if if I touch one person here and that one person decides, hey, I'm either gonna buy the deck or I'm gonna go to therapy, I think it's a win for us. And I've always said that since I started the brand. I said I'm not. I mean, ideally, you want to push millions of product, right? But what I want to do is take one person and say, like, hey, dude, like this really changed my perspective. I really wanted, I was struggling with this, and I decided to open up conversations with my boys, or I decided to go to therapy.
Yeah, I like that. So, Gabriel, my next question is, if a man listening right now or watching this episode is struggling silently, what practical steps would you encourage him to take to begin prioritizing his mental health and finding rest?
Um, I think the one thing, oh man, that's a really good question. Yeah, I'd say one step you could take is just have some ask yourself the hard questions. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Is everything okay?
You good?
You good? Am I good? Like I think that's the first step. And if your answers aren't yes 100% of the time, that's fine. But really dig deep inside and say like, hey, where can I get help? Find those resources. I mean, there's tons of resources that everybody could visit, a bunch of websites. And I say, don't be afraid of therapy. I think culturally we're taught therapy is a bad thing.
Yes.
Explore it.
I was told I was weak because I
Right.
was seeing a therapist.
But the other thing that I think goes unsaid about therapy is that you're not gonna hit a home run with your first therapist.
Of course not.
And you shouldn't give up.
I've had 3 of them so far.
Right. Like and a lot of people give up because they're just like, oh, I'm not clicking, or this isn't clicking. But you need to find someone that's gonna be, you know, that's gonna challenge you and that's gonna help you. Even if it takes 3 to 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. This is one of the final 2 questions I'm going to ask you. This question might be a little bit personal for you, but it's just, I need to tap in with. I want you to tap in very quickly with your old self, like young Gabe, because you talked about coming here at the age of 5, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you is, looking back on your journey, right? What would you tell your younger self? What advice would you give someone facing similar struggles today? But pretty much, what would you say to young Gabe right now?
I think the advice I would give myself is that be patient.
Yeah.
With good intentions and a good heart, everything works out. I think that's the most important thing. And while while you think the world is moving ahead of you, while you think people are moving ahead of you, while you think everybody is outpacing you, I think getting into a sense of like self-confidence or confidence that life is going to work out if you take the right steps, it will, and yeah, and I think that's you know I forget the saying, but like God is good all the time. All the time, God is good.
Yeah. I was literally saying that today earlier
Yeah.
to Diego before we shot this
Yeah.
episode that God is good.
Yeah, and whoever you believe in, right? Like we're not narrowing down to that, but just have faith that if you have good intentions, life will figure itself out. And I would tell my younger self that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So Gabriel, before I ask you the final question,
Yeah.
do you mind
Yeah,
taking out
dude.
one of the cards? And
I think I want to. I know we have a little bit of time, Rob, but I'm gonna ask you a question
sure,
if
no
you don't
problem.
mind.
No problem.
And we're gonna go into it. This is a little bit of improv. So
Okay.
we have unseen burdens. So the deck unseen burdens. Uh, we'll have real love. So whatever you're comfortable with. Real love is obviously self-explanatory, right? Um, well, we have um mental wealth is what we're calling it, because that is the most important thing. And then we have generational threads, which is obviously what we spoke about.
Yep.
And then we have brotherhood bonds. So how you play the game is you lay it out.
Yeah.
And you pick a question and a topic, and we both answer it. So I'm gonna let you pick a topic, and then I'll ask you the question, Rob.
Okay. So let's go with real love.
Oh, damn! Already we're going there. All right, Rob. I'm gonna ask you a question, real love, real quick. All right, Rob. So, question for you: is it easy or hard for you to forgive?
I would
In
say,
in
oh,
in love,
yeah.
not in general, just as far as love is concerned.
I would say the answer to that question is it really depends
Okay.
on the situation. Yeah. I mean, I know for the most part, I like to forgive everyone
Yeah.
who has hurt me when it comes to love, because I've been getting my heart broken since I was a child.
Okay.
The first person to break my heart was my mother and my father.
Mm.
So I feel that growing up, all I had to do was when I went through those same traumas, like I relived those moments through other people, like these women that I dated, especially my ex-girlfriend, who is the reason why I created this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
When she broke my heart with the way she handled our relationship and the way she handled our breakup, it was a question that I had to ask myself as well too. Like, will I ever be able to forgive her?
Yeah.
And I know through therapy, I've said I have to make peace with the fact that she didn't treat our relationship the way it should have been treated.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, everything happens for a reason, and maybe someday, forgiveness could just happen by itself.
It will. It
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
It will.
So you have to ask yourself that question too.
Yeah. So I'd say, I mean, we have a little bit of time. So is it hard? I think it is. It's very hard. I think when you get hurt or when someone hurts you, you don't want to forgive, and you learn to forgive with time.
Yes.
You learn to accept.
Yes.
And forgiveness is not for the other person; it's for yourself.
Yes.
So
100%.
that's what I would say in regards to that question. But I appreciate that, man.
If I could add on to that, I feel like at the end of the day, um, all of us, and this is just advice that I'm sharing with everyone. You don't have to take it if you don't want to, but I feel that with over time, before we leave this earth, we just got to make sure that we forgive ourselves and make peace with everything. So like we don't take that with us to the grave.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
you need to rest in peace.
Yeah, of course. So Gabriel, it's been such a fascinating time with you today. I know it got a little windy as soon as we started this episode. It was very hot earlier. So for the folks watching on YouTube, you're probably gonna have a good laugh with this episode because there's a lot of stuff happening that Mother Nature obviously is doing and we can't control.
Well, that's what New York City is.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. New York City. This is what happens when the Knicks win the championship. So my question to you is, where do you want to take this movement, the You Good movement? Like, how far do you want to take it, and where do you want to take it?
Man, like I said in the beginning, eh, wherever life expects it to go, intends it to go. I think if one person buys a card and I make a difference in one person's life, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think eventually we'll think about other topics that we've kind of noodled on, thinking about like fathers and daughters, fathers and sons, and having those conversations. But right now, the focus is men's mental health.
Yeah. So, folks, visit their website.
This is yours, Rob.
Thank you. I
From us
appreciate
to
it, man.
you.
Yes. Make sure you visit the website right here on the screen, yougood.com.
YouGoodBrand.com.
YouGoodBrand.com. And 10% off. TRP10 is the code. TRP10. When buy the shirts, it comes in black and green, right?
Black and green.
My favorite color is black, so I think the next episode you guys are gonna see me wearing that shirt, and I'm gonna be wearing it very proud. Again, Gabriel, I appreciate your time today, and thank you for creating the YouGood brand. I think one of the best things you could have done. I don't want to take away from anything else you might do in this life, but they always say, what is it that you want to be remembered by? Like, what kind of legacy you're trying to leave behind? I'm not trying to take away from anything big that you might do after this, but to me right now, I think this is the biggest thing you could have ever contributed from yourself, to the world. So I thank you for that. And on that topic, I want to ask you the final question, which I ask everybody that comes on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So the final question is, what is your message to the world and why?
Be kind to each other, man. I think the world is crazy now. It really, it hurts me to think about stuff that people are going through, and I think the biggest thing is just like kindness goes a long way. Be kind to each other all the time. Yeah, I feel deeply about that because kindness is where it starts.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I have this bracelet right here. I always wear it, and I've showed it before to people, and it literally says "Be kind."
All right,
like
my man. Yeah.
So folks, Gabriel is literally our new sponsor, and I'm so happy about it. Still processing. It's gonna take a while for me to process it. But I look forward to when he does come back to New York because he's planning to move back. North Carolina is just not for him, and I appreciate it. But every connection happens for a reason.
Yeah,
everything happens for a reason. Whether they're long-term connections, short-term connections, because they say people come into your life for reason, season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the bond that you and I build is for a lifetime.
For sure.
And we can go out there someday in the near future, educate the youth, educate a lot of brown and black men.
Yeah.
And just ask them that same question. Are you good? Or you good?
Yeah.
But I'm happy that there's people like me in the world. There's people like you in the world. We're out there. We're doing everything we can to educate people and let people know that it's okay to be vulnerable. So I'm glad that we had this episode. This is episode 60 of the Resilient Podcast. I look forward, of course, to the next episode next month. But on behalf of Gabriel, I am Rob Aurelius, your host, and thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you on the next episode. Remember to always remain resilient, and I hope you take good care of yourself. Peace.